I am actually really excited to be sharing with you guys today's recipe. It is like the first and original superfood bowl, but in a plate form. It's like the OG Buddha bowl, and it comes from Costa Rica, and it is called the Casado. And if you've never heard of a Casado before, it's practically the national dish of Costa Rica. You can find it anywhere you go. It is extremely popular. Everyone knows what it is, apparently except me until very recently, and it is fantastic. It's basically a giant filling combo plate situation that is typically always served with rice, beans, side salad or fresh veggies, sometimes cooked veggies, a protein, usually meat, but we're gonna make it plant-based today, of course, as we always do. And it's often served with plantains, which I think is pretty cool. So I'm gonna show you guys how to make a casado. It's honestly so simple. You already know how to make a bunch of the things I'm about to show you today, but I'm gonna basically explain all the different ways you can customize it and make the casado your own. So without further ado, let's get into our first component recipe of the casado. So first up, we are going to start with a delicious tofu recipe. As I mentioned, a casado usually always has a protein, so we're gonna be making a very tangy, savory cilantro lime marinated tofu. I'm gonna show you guys first how to make the marinade. Righto, so the first thing you'll need to grab is like a little mixing bowl or vessel, and we're going to squeeze the juice of 2 limes, about a tablespoon and a half of soy sauce. We're going to mince up 1 clove of garlic. I'm just using a microplaner. About a teaspoon, a scant teaspoon of cumin, a good pinch of red chili flakes for a little bit of heat, plus a good pinch of kosher salt. Also, get a small handful of cilantro. We're gonna finely mince that up and add it to our mix. Now just give everything a good little stir. Brilliant, now we can just set aside our marinade for a couple minutes, let all the flavors commingle. Grab your 2 blocks of tofu. We're just going to cube them up real easy into, 1-ish inch cubes. Now just grab yourself any kind of container, like a rectangular Tupperware or something. We're just going to layer in our tofu into the container. Try to fit them in as crammed in as you can without them being like, I don't know, overcrowded, but we just want to be able to fit all the tofu in a container, so grab something that's, big enough for 2 blocks. Fabulous! Now, what are we gonna do? We're gonna take this chunky little marinade and we're going to pour it over top of all that fabulous tofu. Seal it with a lid. And now we're just gonna give it a real aggressive shake. Oh, make sure that it is sealed. I felt something splatter. Rule number 1, make sure it's sealed, for the love of God. Now we're just gonna let it sit aside on the countertop to marinate for the next little bit while we get into our next recipe. Next up, we're making gallo pinto. If you've never heard of it, it's a really simple fried rice and black bean dish. It's actually usually served as a breakfast item, which I think is awesome because, fried rice and beans you wouldn't necessarily think of for breakfast, but you should because they're healthy for you and they give you lots of energy. Now, gallo pinto isn't typically served in a casado, which is usually reserved for lunch, a casado, but we're slightly bending the rules today because why not? All you need is rice, cooked beans, by the way, day-old rice, I should have said. Cooked black beans, those can be canned as well if you don't have cooked black beans on hand. You need a red bell pepper, onion and garlic, cilantro and hot sauce. Veggie prep is very simple. We're going to mince up our garlic, chop our bell pepper and our onion quite finely, and also mince up our cilantro. All right, let's take this party over to the stove. So grab yourself a pretty large frying pan, and we're going to heat it up over medium-high heat and add about 1 tablespoon of olive oil. And once that is HAWT hot, you can go ahead and add in your onion, garlic, and chopped red bell pepper. Give it all a good stir, and we're just going to saute all of these together for about 5 minutes, just until they're a little bit softened and everything is nice and fragrant. Yes. Then we're gonna take our 2 cups of cooked black beans in their cooking liquid. And if you're using canned black beans, don't rinse them, just dump them right into the pan as is. Then for some additional liquid seasonings, we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of hot sauce. And a condiment that's very popular in Costa Rican cooking is called salsa Lizano. I couldn't find it, but I heard a good alternative to it is Worcestershire sauce and a little bit of cumin. It's not gonna taste exactly like it from what I've heard, but it comes kind of close, so I'm gonna do that. 2 tablespoons of vegan Worcestershire and half a teaspoon of cumin. Give that all a good stir to combine. And we're just going to keep this kind of simmering at about a medium-high heat until most of this liquid that's in the pan that you can see here has mostly evaporated. We want it to go from looking like this to this. Not a lot of moisture left in the pan, as you can see. So now we're just gonna add our cooked white rice, which is 3 cups. This is day-old cooked white rice, and whenever you're frying rice, you always want day-old rice because it's had a chance to kind of dry up in the fridge overnight. It's a little bit more kind of crumbly, it breaks apart easier. It's not too sticky, which is awesome for frying rice. At this point, you can add a little pinch of salt. I'm just gonna add about half a teaspoon of kosher salt. The black beans are definitely going to kind of color this dish to be kind of like a brownish, purplish color, really depending on the kind of black beans you have. And that is totally intentional and very much traditional for gallo pinto. It's often like a dark colored rice dish. Ooh, my God, that smells ridiculous. Okay, so once the rice is heated through, you're gonna turn off the heat and we are just going to stir in all that chopped cilantro. Try not to also chop off your thumb knuckle. It is way too hot for me to taste test, but we will come back to that. For now, let's move on to our last couple of steps in this casado build a plate. Okay, so do you guys remember that tofu that we were marinating a little while ago? It's like done marinating, so we're gonna bring it on over to this here pan again, which I just cleaned, and we're gonna fry it up, baby. So once again, I've got some oil, not a lot, about 1.5-ish tablespoons of oil heating up in this pan. Once it is hot, we are just going to individually place our pieces of tofu right in that pan. So we're just going to keep these frying on about medium-high heat. Flip them over and we're just going to brown each side for about 1 to 2 minutes. So this shouldn't take any longer than about 10 minutes to get all this tofu nice and browned. So while our tofu is getting freaky over in the frying pan, I figured let's take a quick moment to talk about the humble plantain. Yes, it is the starchier, slightly less sweet version of a banana. Some might say it's the lesser cousin of a banana, but I don't know, I'm not sure about that. I think plantains are very popular. I don't just think that, I know that, especially in South America and definitely in Costa Rica. When you're ordering a casado pretty much anywhere in Costa Rica, from my research, which was extensive, you will always find fried plantains on the menu and on your plate. So I didn't want to leave it out. I want to show you guys how easy it is to quickly pan fry up some plantains as a really nice kind of slightly sweet side dish to an otherwise savory lunch. So to prep your plantains for frying, really all you gotta do is practically peel it like a banana, or you could just chop off the ends, then peel. And then we're just going to kind of slice them into about 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch thick slices, kind of on a diagonal. So here we have our sliced plantains. Very, very nice. We've got a secondary skillet heating up here over medium heat. Just a little bit of oil is all I'm using today. Just a little bit goes a long way. All right, you know the drill. Once that pan is hot, we're just gonna plunk those plantains into the pan. And we pretty much just wanna keep these cooking over like a medium-low temperature. We don't want to burn them because that would not be fun. No one wants a burnt plantain. So just about 4 minutes on each side is probably all you'll need. And once they're golden on the bottom, we're just gonna flip them. Y'all, these plantains are looking gorgeous and golden. I'm just going to give them a teeny weeny pinch of salt. If you wanted to eat these as like a dessert, you can always sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon on top with a little bit of maple syrup while they're cooking, and oh my gosh. Eat them over ice cream, eat them on their own. Yum! Friends, this is such a simple way of cooking and eating, and I am so into this Costa Rican combo platter of delicious proportions and portions. It's nutritionally balanced, so hearty, and will make a fantastic addition to your weekly meal prep routine. I highly recommend you give the Casado some love, and it will love you right back. If you love vegan and gluten-free recipes, make sure you subscribe below. I love you, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.